Hi, it's Jasmin. You know, that girl who did you-know-what way before the internet ever existed. Join me and my special guest every week as we talk about anything and everything because nothing is too taboo. So punch your ticket and get on board the Krazy Train with me, Jasmin St. All aboard!
Welcome to a brand new episode of Krazy Train podcast. Today's guest is one of my all-time favorite wrestlers, not because we work together at JCW or anything like that, but because he's had such a lengthy career for the past 20 years, from Deathmatches to WWE referee, and now Mr. Fifties in Juggalo Championship Wrestling. Let us welcome to the show, Drake Younger. Thank you so much for joining me today. I know that as of late, your wrestling career is extremely, what should I say, busy? Is that the right word?
I would say so. That's a proper adjective, yes.
Well, everyone knows you as being this huge deathmatch legend, and I'd like you to tell everyone how you actually started, because then you were in WWE for quite some time, right?
I sure was, and I want to thank you for having me on the show as well. This is my first time on the Krazy Train podcast, so again, I'm extremely excited. Anytime I get the opportunity to sit down with you, it's always a treat for me. So, how I started. I was born and raised in the Midwest in Indiana. Grew up in Indianapolis, and just as a child of the 80s, I was born when Hulkamania took off in 1984. And so many Saturday and Sundays I spent, countless hours in front of the TV watching Superstars, watching Worldwide, watching All American Wrestling. It totally captivated me. Oftentimes, in my childhood and teenage years, it was almost, I dare say, kind of an escape a little bit. It was just like a safe place for me to watch pro wrestling and just see these larger than life, live action comic book characters, these giant muscles and the adrenaline and just these, cool storylines that now looking back on it, I don't know, I was just captivated with it. And WrestleMania 8 was kind of a turning point for me. That was in Indianapolis, Indiana at the Hoosier Dome. The match that really did it for me was the Intercontinental title match that night, and it was the Bret the Hitman Hart versus Roddy Piper. Just the sheer emotion of that match, and the drama and everything. As a 7-year-old child at the time, I saw that and was like, okay, this is what I want to do with my life. And so fast forward. A couple years later, I joined the amateur wrestling club, but I thought it was going to be like pro wrestling. So I showed up and I was like, "Where's the ropes? Where's where's the ring post? What's going on?" I stuck with it though, and did that throughout until I graduated high school. But I actually became a pro wrestler when I was 17 years old.
17?
17 when I became a pro. Yes. In the late 90s and early 2000s, I'm sure you remember, Jazz, the backyard wrestling craze was sweeping the nation. There was even video games for it and everything. I was a part of that. And then, there was a local promotion that saw that we had some natural talent. We were also just crazy as all get out. We would, jump off buildings, do whatever. And we got noticed through the Indianapolis Star, like the local newspaper. The local news did a episode on us. That's actually on YouTube, by the way. Funny thing, I'll send that to you later. But me and a buddy of mine, we went to a couple of local shows. And I just stayed after the show and asked them, like, hey, can we help take down the ring? And then, like, if we can get in the ring for a little bit. And they're like, yeah. So we got in the ring. My buddy hit me with a Hurricane Rana, and they're like, we took down the ring, and then eventually, started training with American Kickboxer and Ian Rotten. And that happened every Wednesday night. There was pro wrestling at the Evansville Coliseum, which is another historic venue as well. And then every Tuesday night, we would drive down to towards Louisville, Kentucky, train with Ian Rotten, train with Chris Hero, a very tough style. You know, I fell in love with IW Mid-South and CCW at the time. That's what I wanted to do, where I wanted to go. And just, you know, it was a lot of on-the-job training, you know, paying dues, sitting in car rides, you know, with Five Deep, just listening to the veterans. Tracy Smothers was huge in my come up as well. And so again, that's how I got started, just in pro wrestling in general.
Yeah, it's so I remember meeting you when you were very young. So I don't know if you were just doing ring crew then or you were wrestling. But it's amazing. 17 years old. Did your parents have to sign something? Because that's under 18.
Yeah, it sure is. No, in Indiana and in a lot of states, independent wrestling is not regulated, so to speak. So, no, it was just, it was just kind of common at the time. I mean, you hear of like the guys in Mexico starting when they're like 14 and stuff, so it's crazy. But it was, yeah, I met you. I was a fan. Extreme Heaven 2001, Charlestown, Indiana. IWM Mid-South. I was a ticket buying kid in the crowd. So yeah, that's when I met you. But no, you know, nothing needed to be signed or anything like that. It was just, you know, get in the car and go. And I was real fortunate because a lot of guys don't get this, guys and gals don't get this these days. I had the opportunity to work weekly in Evansville. I mean, every single Wednesday, we would go down early, you know, do training, run the stairs in the Coliseum, you know, do our push-ups and squats and everything like that, and be on the show in some capacity. And I think my first payday was a hamburger and $5 in an envelope. And looking back, I'm like, why did they bother giving me an envelope? Like with you know, with $5 in it. But yeah, hamburger, handshake, and $5. But I was on cloud nine because I was living my dream. So yeah, I'm real fortunate to be weekly wrestling. And then, you know, I would often get home midnight, 1 in the morning, and then, you know, my junior and senior year of high school, had to go to school the next day and everything. And like it was a wild balance.
Well, wait a second. Is this when you started doing actual death matches? Because someone like you, with your looks, you're built like an Adonis or like a statue. Sorry, you look like an Adonis. You're built like a statue, but yet you'll go out there and get, you know, battered by light tubes, tables, barbed wire. Why would you even do that?
No, that didn't start until 2006. Um, the I mean, it's hard to pinpoint. And by the way, thank you so much for the comments about my physical condition.
It's true.
Oh, you're amazing. That was not the case in those days. I was just a pudgy little white dude from Indiana. But like, but no, death matches started in 2006. My mindset at the time, again, because I loved, you know, the Japanese style death matches at IWM Mid-South, you know, the King of the Deathmatch tournament and the Tournament of Death with CZW. Those were, it wasn't quite DVDs yet. It was still a little bit of the VHS, you know, trading, but DVDs were coming out. And so I was just, that's all I watched. And I found that I had a pretty decent tolerance for pain, so to speak. And in 2006, there was the IWM Mid-South King of the Death Matches, and it was going to be 2 nights, and Ian needed 28 wrestlers. And so, like, and again, this is before the days of, like, texting was still in its infancy. It was like T9 texting, and it cost like 5 cents per text every time you sent it. You know what I mean? So, so I remember, like, calling the promoter, like calling Ian Rotten, and like just with this nervous lump in my throat, like, hey Ian, hello sir, this is Drake Younger. I see you need 28 people for your tournament this year. Just wanted to see if I could possibly earn the opportunity. He said, oh yeah, kiddo, just show up here, do this battle royal, and show up there. And he goes, yeah, I'd love to use you for the death matches. Like, just, you know, just needed somebody. And I was like, I made that my mission. I was like, okay, this is my chance to get out of Indiana. This is my chance to have my big break. This is my chance to like let the world know that like I belong here and I'm gonna make a gosh damn serious go at this thing. And opening match, light tube steel cage match. Me and my friend at the time, diehard Dustin Lee. I mean, it was like the perfect storm, and it was in Indianapolis. It was in my hometown, so we went out there and knocked it out of the freaking park. You know, did some really, you know, like you said, because I know how to wrestle technically. I know how to wrestle high flying. Like that stuff is natural second nature to me. And incorporating that with the light tubes, with the blood, and even early on when I didn't really know much, I knew that emotion, um, emotion and passion would be attractive to people. You know what I mean? Cool moves are great. Jumping off cages is great. You know, getting elbow drops off ladders, awesome. But if there's no emotion, if there's no passion, if there's no motive behind the story, behind this beautiful picture that you're trying to paint on that 18 by 18 canvas, then it just doesn't mean much. So luckily I got that early on, and then you know I'll wrap it up with this. Then on night two, I'll never forget. Ian came up to me during the day and he said he was really impressed with the first night. You know, he saw me all bloody and like I think he knew he knew there were some dollar signs potentially behind me, right? And so he said, "Hey kiddo, hey, would you be willing to do barefoot thumbtacks tonight? We need something big." And I just like instantaneously thought in my mind because Smart Mark Video was filming it. I'm not sure if you remember those guys, Jazz.
Yeah, very well.
Yeah, exactly. And so their DVD distribution was huge. And so I was like, okay, this is going to be filmed by Smart Mark Video. It's going to be seen around the world. By the way, quick sidebar. Like we had to wait like 2 or 3 weeks to like see our matches, you know, because the DVD had to get made, edited, put out. YouTube was very, very young at the time, and so like I find it fascinating that nowadays there's a highlight video of our match before we even get to the shower. You know, so it's like it's crazy, yeah, with the technology now. Anyway, I digress. I was like, okay, this is gonna be seen around the world. Like this is my opportunity, man. This is what I've been hoping for and praying for. And so I was like, absolutely, boss. You know, I always call Ian boss. You know, I was like, yeah, boss, absolutely, whatever you need, of course, yeah. And I had the opportunity that night to be in the ring with one of my best friends, a guy who's unfortunately no longer with us, the late great J.C. Bailey, and he led me through that match. And he made that match, like, obviously he was going to win and go over, but he made that match about me. And we just did some stuff that people had never seen. You know, there'd only been a couple barefoot thumbtack matches ever at that point. And we just took that foundation and just, you know, just hit a freaking grand slam in that match. And people still talk about that today. There's many highlight videos of it. It's one of my proudest moments. And through that, Wax was the photographer. He is
Wax
Wax.
with the earrings?
Yes.
Oh God.
He was the photographer. Yeah, that's a blast from the past, Wax. And he was great friends with John Zandig, the promoter of CZW. He immediately told John Zandig about that match. And through a MySpace message, I was then booked within 1 week to be at the Tournament of Death, which was going to be the next month in Delaware. And we were off to the freaking races, Jasmin St. Clair. We were off to the races, girl.
Yeah, you were, but I think there's so much that I could pull out from what you just said. Number one, I feel as though, and again, I'm happy to see my friends working in AEW, NWA, TNA. I'm really glad, but so many companies seem to lack storytelling. You know, that's the one thing I like about Juggalo Championship Wrestling is they have storytelling and they have characters. I buy tickets to see someone cooler than I am. Well, that's kind of hard now, but back
It's very
then,
hard to find somebody cooler than you, girl.
exactly. Like back then, I wanted to buy a ticket to see Miss Elizabeth. I wanted to buy tickets to see Sherry Martel or Woman. Like those were my idols growing up. And that's what we pay for, right? Do you feel a lot of these companies lack that into the characters, the psychology, and the storytelling, especially in the indie scene?
In the indie scene, I'm in the bubble still a little bit, but I'm not watching each and every single thing, but I try to watch almost every match from whatever show I'm on. As you said, I second your statement that, JCW really emphasizes storytelling and characters and everything like that, and the power of backstage interviews and everything like that. I will say, amongst the independent scene, there is some lacking to that. There really is. I think just overall in general, and it's mostly focused on the in ring work, which is fine. You know what I mean? That is the in game, the marquee. What's on the marquee is wrestling. But I do say that there could be a lot more mileage out of the work that's being put forth if there's, I say some earlier call times, so that way we can film some interviews, or like, hey, let's rehearse your entrance. Let's see, let's see where we're gonna get the best camera shot for your entrance, or just really blocking out, going through, hey, where's the best spot where this camera is gonna get this, and then I can't. With a caveat, though, I do want to say there are guys on the independents like Atticus Kogar, that really they take initiative. There's other names that I'd piss people off if I started saying names and didn't mention them, but he stands out to me like at the top of my head because he takes the opportunity, he takes initiative, he takes the freaking steering wheel. And for lack of a better term, he doesn't really care what the promoter wants. He is going to put everything he has into whatever feud he's in or whatever piece of business that he's in, and he really takes the time to put those stories out there. And with the the magic and the technology of video editing nowadays, that is a whole nother wheelhouse that I'm not necessarily knowledgeable about, but I am knowledgeable about the power behind what can be the result of the fruits of the labor going into that, and I think it really shows out for him. So yeah, I think that's huge, and like you said, I buy tickets because I want to see freaking superstars. You know what I mean? I want to see people. And that's once I hit that curtain, I want it to be an event, happening. I want it to be almost like a party. You know what I mean? People work all week, and the entertainment dollar is incredibly valuable nowadays, especially in the tough economy. So, you got to think, a family of four, they're getting tickets that are, $30 to $50 each. A lot of times they got to pay for parking. They're going to buy some T-shirts. They're going to buy some souvenirs. They're going to buy some popcorn, some hot dogs, sodas, or whatever. And they just want to escape life and live vicariously through what we're doing for a few hours. And so, I am going to give everything I have, of course, in my body, but also in my soul, my passion, and the 6 to 8 inches here, with my facial expressions. I just want them to be a part of it, and I want to take them on that roller coaster ride. And ladies and gentlemen, keep your hands and your feet in the vehicle at all times. Strap on your seatbelt because we're going for a ride. And that's what I want. I don't know. I think I want that out of every performer within their own context. You know what I mean? Just to focus hey, it's awesome that you can do freaking half Nelson suplexes and you can do nip up hurricane ranas and all that. It's amazing. But let's take a second afterward and acknowledge the people and let them digest what you just done. So anyway, that's my 2 cents on it.
No, it's very true. I think sometimes people are just spot monkeys when you see them do things on TV. And it's not their fault. It's just the way things are at some promotions. I've got to ask you about WWE. So when you went to work for WWE as a ref, what was how did that come about? And did you feel a little bit insulted because you were just a referee instead of wrestling?
I'll answer that fully in detail. So how that happened, I was really rocking on the independents, right? Especially towards, I stepped away from the death matches a little bit, let's say in 2013. and I got sober as well, and I started going to the gym and just actually living the life of a pro wrestler. I lost almost 70 pounds, got real lean and everything. Started working out, and then because I had like some decent success, just being a guy. You know what I mean? Like I didn't make any extra effort. You know what I mean? And it sounds terrible. I don't want to say it was effortless, but I wasn't doing the stuff outside the ring that's necessary to be successful. I just successful off taking crazy bumps and bleeding a lot. You know what I mean? But once I did that, I was like, I had done everything. I had done Japan at that time. I had made event in Corcoran Hall. I started wrestling for PWG in Los Angeles, and like immediately was in the top guy conversation in that as far as being on the main events and stuff. And like I was, all the time doing it for the deathmatch guys. Like, hey, we can do this. Like we're not, you know what I mean? And so I was like, gosh. It's like, man, what if I just tried to do something with WWE? All I wanted to do was like just be an extra and just say I did it and just like be, eat catering and just, say, okay, hey, I'm an extra, right? And so one of my best buddies, John Moxley, who was Dean Ambrose at the time, all I did, I messaged him to say, hey, who do I contact? I didn't say, hey, bro, can you get me a spot? Or, hey, dude, can you get me booked in this? Like, it was just like, hey, what direction would you suggest I go? And he gave me the talent development's name and email, and he said just send a couple of recent pictures, send your height, weight, how many years you've been wrestling, and just ask them whenever they're in the area, which I was in the West Coast at the time, NorCal. Represent.
Yeah.
Sacramento, Sacktown. I said, just ask whenever they're in the West Coast, like if you can be an extra. And so I said, yeah, thanks, man. So I did that. I did exactly that. I want to say it was maybe a couple weeks later. I got a phone call, and it was a 203 number. I was like, oh, whoa, that's Connecticut. I was like, oh, shit, this is Connecticut. Sorry, can we cuss on here?
Yes, I do all the time. Are you looking for a safe way to bet online where there is something for everyone, including yourself? Then go to betonline.ag, where I am sure you will find something. Don't forget, it's betonline.ag for the most variety and the safest way to bet online.
I was like, oh, shit, this is Connecticut. I was like, oh, man, what is this? And so I answered, it's like, hey, this is so-and-so from World Wrestling Entertainment. Wanted to see if you were available August something, and we're doing Monday Night Raw in Sacramento and SmackDown the next day in San Jose, and it was like I was like, oh, so excited. I was like, it was like fireworks were going off. You know what I mean? I was just like, holy shit, WWE's calling me to be an extra. And so I said, oh, yes, ma'am, absolutely. And she said, okay, just make sure you show up in a suit, no photos backstage, and we'll see you there. Like it was like simple as that. And I'll never forget, like, we got bought a suit, you know what I mean, for the first time, and it was like trying it on, took pictures with it and everything. I was like, wow, this is like really happening, you know what I mean? And so showed up to Monday Night Raw. I was chosen to be like in the background of this backstage shot where Mr. McMahon was walking around. So I was like, okay, cool. I was on camera for WWE. Awesome. The big one was the next day in San Jose at the SAP Center. I don't know if it's still called that now, but it's where the Sharks play. But anyway, so I went there and then I actually got to do a match during the day. Like it's very awkward, and you do a match with a referee, and there's like the contracted talent might be walking around and maybe drinking coffee. You know what I mean? Like Roman Reigns was there, and then like Dolph Ziggler was over here, Cody Rhodes was over there. This was 2013 at the time, and the match went fine. Did a promo class with Paul Heyman, who you know very well.
Yes.
And got some amazing, feedback from him. But then my moment happened. At the time, Ryback was doing this kind of bullying character, where he was, just bullying people around backstage and everything. And Scott Armstrong came up to me and said, hey, we're going to use you in some physicality in a segment tonight. with Ryback. I was like, awesome. This is so cool. Okay. So, we're getting ready it was going to be pre-tape. So we're getting ready to do the pre-tape. One of the writers comes up to me and he's like, hey, are those gig scars on your head? I was like, yes, sir. He's like, no problem, not a problem. Hey, hair and makeup, when you like, so like I said that, and they put makeup over my.
You have to pick up the getaway.
I was like, oh my gosh, I'm getting hair and makeup done. Like, oh, this is crazy. And so, and we do the segment, which is also on YouTube. Ryback slaps me, and then for this pre-tape, he threw me over this table, and I took like I was like, I'm gonna give everything I got in this one bump. So I flipped over the table and front bumped on the concrete, which for those that don't know, it's just essentially a front flip. Front flip, bumped on the concrete, bam, made a loud smack. It hurt like hell, but obviously it was worth it. And so that happened. Everybody's real happy. So then, Jazz, this is pretty cool. I've never told you this. All right, so then, so I'm off to the side, and the writers and the producer of the segment, anytime there's a segment backstage, there will be a writer there who wrote it, and if it involves physicality, there will be a producer or agent, whatever you want to call them there, to essentially coach the physical part, right? Because the writers don't coach physicality, and the agents don't coach character writing. So anyway, the agent was Fit Finley, and then him and the writer, and they said, hey, Paul, can you come over and watch this? So in walks Triple H. I'm like, oh shit! It's the game, right? So I'm in the back area, and I'm watching them watch the pre-tape that we just recorded, and you can hear where the bump that I did happen. It was a smack on the concrete, and I look at Triple H's face, and he goes, "Whoo!" And he looks at the writer, and he goes, "Is that kid okay?" And they go, "Yeah, he's right there." It's like, he's like, "Holy shit, you okay?" I was like, yes, sir, I'm great. Thanks for the opportunity, And so they watch it, then they talk amongst themselves, and then Hunter walks up to me, and he goes, "Thank you for taking that bump." He goes, "I'm gonna ask you to do it again if you're okay with that." I'm like, "Yeah, of course." He didn't like the timing of. He wanted Ryback to take more of a pause after the slap, right? And so we did it again. This time I'm like, all right, I'm gonna make this one better. And so he grabs me and he throws me, and this time I do what we call an ass over tea kettle. Like I just go on, I land on the back of my head and float over the table. That's the one that's on YouTube. And they said, and we did that live for the crowd. There was no time to pre-tape it anymore. It was live. So we did that, and then they said 2, 1, clear, and then everybody started clapping, and then fucking Ryback was super happy with it, and then Stephanie McMahon came over to me. She said, "Thank you so much. That was such a good bump. Thank you for doing that for us." So, I was just like, "This is so freaking cool, man." And so Fit Finley came up to me and he said, "Hey, I'll make sure you get a bonus for that. It was a great bump. Thank you for that." It was so super cool. Anyway, I'm getting to the point of your question. That was just a cool story that I don't think many people know about. But
I think it's great. I love it.
Thank you. So I'm walking out of the arena, and William Regal was the one who worked with extras at the time. I said, "Hey, Mr. Regal, I just wanted to thank you so much. It's like, you have any guidance on what I should do from here?" And he immediately looked at me and he says, "Oh yeah, you're going to be getting a tryout." I was like, "What?" He's like, "Yeah, well, within the next month or so, we'll contact you, and we're going to bring you to Orlando to the Performance Center, and then we'll go from there." I was like, "Holy shit! What, in one night? In one night, all that happened?" I was like, "This is crazy," because there are guys and gals that are extras like 20, 30 times before they get a tryout, right? And I was just, sorry, I'm getting a little emotional.
It's okay.
But it was just like, dude, in one night that happened for me, it was just like, damn, this is really a possibility. So I got the email. They flew me in from California to Orlando. did the 3-day tryout, physically and mentally, 3 of the toughest days ever for me. They essentially just try to break you, and they want to see if you're going to last. And it's about maybe 30% focused on your physical work, but it's it's everything else is on your promo. You get a 1 minute character presentation, and that can either get you to the next level or get you on the chopping block. And so the tryout happened. I did a promo at the end, and I was wearing a suit and tie. And I can't remember the exact verbiage, but at one point, I ripped the shirt off at the end of the promo, and all my scars, because these were athletes, they're CrossFit champions and football players, and
totally
you know
it.
what
Yeah.
I mean? Yeah, and
they don't get
these dudes, they got no scars, right? So they hadn't seen my scars yet, so I ripped the shirt off, and I said, "You see these scars? These scars are the story of a man that was never allowed to be a boy." And I just closed in off that, and everybody clapped. Terry Taylor said, "Great job," and Terry Taylor, right? Yeah, he's the best. I love Terry. I actually had a match with Ricochet in the Performance Center. It was his tryout match as well. So at the end of it, William Regal pulls me to the side, and he said, he goes, essentially, I'm paraphrasing here, but he said, "Hey, because at the time it was still in that era a little bit of you had to be 25 years old, you had to be 6'2", 225 pounds, all that kind of deal." It was starting to break away from that, but still kind of stuck in the old way. So he said, "Look, you've been wrestling in Japan a lot." And he goes, "You're in your 30s, and then he's like, you're cut up and scarred up." He kind of scoffed at it a little bit, but he understood, what I mean? But he goes, "Look, what we really, really need, we're in need of a quality referee that has wrestling experience, that looks like he can break up a fight, that can help coach some of these people in the ring that have never done this before." And he said, "Look, we could absolutely sign you as a wrestler. You may be here 2 or 3 years." And he goes, "But with refereeing, you can learn all this other stuff." He goes, "It's not as much money, but it's steady money." And he goes, I really think if you're willing, because they had asked other people before, and essentially the answer was "Oh, no, bro, I'm a wrestler. No, I'm a wrestler. Yeah. Or I'm coming in as a ref, but I'm going to cut a promo as a wrestler." You know what I mean? That kind of stuff. And, I had just had my second child was on the way, and I was working 3 jobs at the time, including wrestling, to support everything. And as I mentioned earlier, I checked all the boxes of independent wrestling. I literally done everything I wanted to do. And so immediately I was like, "Oh, yes, sir, I would absolutely love that. I would love that." They could have said, "Hey, you want to be a janitor?" I would have done that. You know what I mean?
Really?
Yeah, hell yeah. This is WWE. Yeah, absolutely. This is World Wrestling Entertainment, worldwide leader in sports and entertainment. You know what I mean? So, yeah, so no, I went for that, and I fell in love with the art form of refereeing, studied it, night and day, was in the Performance Center, from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Most days, just training in the gym, studying, anytime there was practice matches going on, I was in there reffing, just getting my timing right, getting everything right. And dude, I just absolutely fell in love with it, and had a wonderful, wonderful 8-year run there that could have been longer, but that's another topic for another day. But had an awesome career there, and they still take care of me to this day. So in ways, so it's I'm really for, and I will always be. People can say whatever they want about this. I don't care. I will always be a WWE guy. I love the WWE way of how they present business, how they present our product. I love the WWE way of how they, coach talent, the expectations that they have as far as professionalism. And how they, especially how they help any current or former contracted talent that is having any kind of substance abuse issue. For that, alone and everything else, like I will, you'll never hear me say a bad word about that company. And like I'll wrap it up with this too. Like I remember when my third child was born. Um, you know, I had like there was vacation time too, like as a in the performance center, so I had some of that time banked up, and I was like, hey Matt, I asked Matt Bloom, who I reported to, you know, I was like, hey, you know, is it okay if I take like a week off after the baby's born? And he said, pal, he said you take 3 weeks off. So I got three weeks off. They paid me the whole time, and on top of that, I remember this is stuff that people don't hear. And look, I was like just a referee, right? I didn't make money for the company. You know, I was necessary and I did a lot of good work. Don't get me wrong, but people didn't buy tickets to see me, you know, and like, Triple H and Stephanie sent this ginormous package of gifts to my house for not only for the baby that was born, my little Matthew, but also for my older kids. I mean, there was, you know, a rocking horse with my son's name embroidered on it. I mean, just all sorts of toys and everything, like just out of the goodness of their hearts. You know what I mean? And like I love that place. I love that company. Hunter and Stephanie are some of the best people I've ever met and the best quality people that I've ever worked with.
Yeah, I've always heard good things about Hunter, and I met him a couple of times, but he showed up to a friend's funeral a few years ago, who did the ring entrance music. Yeah, so I mean, they seem like pleasant people and like they seem human. You know, they don't seem like so holier than thou like some companies, but it's a really heartwarming story to know that they sent you this big gift. I had a feeling that's where you were going with it. Was yeah, they sent me a gift basket. I had this gut feeling, or like a fruit basket or something. But that rocking horse sounds really cool, by the way,
Oh
and
my
it's
gosh.
interesting.
Yeah.
It really
So much
is.
stuff. So much stuff. That's stuff people don't hear about. Yeah.
No, I think it's sweet, but I could tell you've worked with talent, like younger talent, by the way you speak with some of the guys backstage. Like I've seen you in action. Now, when I started working with you at XPW, the last thing I expected was to see you with like 100. How many light tubes? Like 100 light tubes in a freaking ring. I mean,
200.
oh my bad.
Oh, and by the way, I don't know if I ever actually answered your question. No, I was not insulted whatsoever by being
I didn't
asked
think
to be a
so.
ref. No, I accepted the mission and the challenge with vigor and with gratitude. So that's the answer to the question. And it was 200 light tubes. 200 light tubes, girl.
My bad. Yeah, 200 light tubes. Do you think there's a point in time where death matches are just getting overdone? And I know that you work for some death match companies. I like SVN and a few of the other companies out there, but it's no insult to them. But do you think this is getting overdone? Because how many light tubes could we really do?
I don't know if overdone is the term I would use, but I would say it's almost too easy to become a deathmatch wrestler nowadays. And, you know, and it's not to knock anybody necessarily, any individual or anything. I'm just speaking from a 30,000 foot view overall sense. Like, when I got into death matches, like, it was something you had to earn. Like, you had to be a regular wrestler for at least a couple years, you know, and like, I'll never forget, like, you know, the Madman Pondo's Masters of Pain tournament in 2006. Like, it was just 8 people. You know, amongst that field was Jun Kasai, Two Tough Tony, Corbin Robinson, Madman Pondo, J.C. Bailey, Mr. Insane, Toby Klein, The Range, and then myself, right? And, like, I was honored to be in that group. And I got in there because somebody wasn't going to be able to make it, and they needed somebody that was willing to take a weed whacker. And so I was like, yeah, cool, I'll do it. But, like, I'll never forget, like, the next day we're all having breakfast. Like, Pondo took us out to this, like, breakfast buffet place. And he said, you know, Drake, like, I was worried about putting you in because I didn't think you'd necessarily earned it yet. But, man, you proved last night you earned the right to be a deathmatch wrestler. And that stuck with me forever because, like, it is. And you look at you've been to Japan, you look at the Japanese system, they've really got to pay their dues before they get the privilege to have light tubes in their match, the privilege to be able to do cool stuff like that. And so I wish there was some more emphasis on, like, no, you can't just show up here with a pair of jeans and a freaking tank top and like go in here and just swing light tubes. Like, I wish there was a little more enforcement, for lack of a better term, on that. So I think when I got into wrestling again, I was speaking with Eric Dillinger about this last night as we're recording this, because I rode with him from Chicago to Indianapolis, and so we get to spend a few hours in the car and just chop shop, and I like put him on the game, right? Like he was asking me questions, and like it was great just talking wrestling with the guy. But like when I broke in, it sounds like such an old timer thing. Like when I broke in, when I broke in, there was two deathmatch companies. It was IWM in South and CZW. You know what I mean? That was the only two in America. And there were sublets of IWA, like IWA Deep South and IWA East Coast. But again, it was IWA and CZW. That was it. Now, God, there's like, I dare say legitimately like 13 deathmatch companies, or more in America.
Way more.
Yeah, way more. I think the exclusivity of it is kind of lost its allure a little bit. That's why I think, companies like SVN, like RPW, I'll give GCW their flowers, obviously, as well. Like, it's the cream of the crop in those companies. So, you know what I mean? And the way Big Japan and Freedoms do it overseas as well. So, I just wish there was a little more of the privilege being earned.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. I see so many screw ups.
Yeah, and I will say too, also to your point, like whether it's 100 light tubes, 200 light tubes, or 700, like my philosophy, and again, I don't do them anymore. I had my last one in November of last year, but my philosophy when going there is like, I don't care if it's just a barbed wire bat or if it's 200 light tubes or whatever. Like if we go out there and we execute with precision, like execute with professional precision, it doesn't matter how many light tubes or how many panes of glass are in there. The emotion doesn't go away. The athleticism doesn't go away. The passion doesn't go away, and the drama doesn't go away. Like and being safe. Like I pride myself in like, hey, if you're working with me again, we're peeling back the curtain here. Everybody's in on the gag, so I'll just peel back the curtain. Like if you're working with me, I want you to say, hey, I could be in the ring with Drake 7 nights a week if I had to, because yes, it's going to be impactful. Yes, we're going to make it's going to be exciting. There's going to be some death-defying, risk-taking stuff, but it's going to be done incredibly safe. And my mission when I get in the ring with somebody is to get them back home to their family the same way that they left. I don't want to freaking hurt people. I don't want to potato them. I don't want to stiff them. It's not my thing, man. I'm not down with that. I don't like that. You know what I mean? Like it's an art form for a reason. So, that's also my 2 cents on that.
Yeah, you're saying all of this. Then we spoke about Atticus Cougar earlier. On his Instagram page, there's a photo of him laying in a bed in the UK with blood all over the bed sheet and a big bandage. So sometimes I think it can go a little bit too far. I don't know what it is with the fans, and I love the fans. Don't get me wrong. You people are crazy, but I still don't understand what the allure is, because I get freaked out now when I see all of that, because I haven't worked with death matches in a little while now. So, which brings me to the next stage of your career. So, I was shocked. I know how you are about kayfabing people, okay? So, it's my first weekend in for JCW, Juggalo Championship Wrestling, which, by the way, everyone has something for everyone, every wrestling fan out there, because there's so much cool stuff and characters, and the production is so professionally done. So I look at the sheet, I see Drake Younger. Of course, Drake's coming in. Of course he is. How did they come up with that gimmick for you? And I think that Mr. 50s gimmick is perfect because you look like a collegiate wrestler and you have the hairline done properly, by the way. That's how specific
Thank you, baby.
it is.
Thank you, baby. It's crazy how that happened. Like I've always loved Insane Clown Posse, right? I went through a hardcore Juggalo phase, but I've always appreciated the music and just them as entrepreneurs and them as the way they do business as well, and their love for professional wrestling, which has never gone away. So at this stage of my career, okay, like I'm 40 years old, I'm physically still in the best shape of my life still, and it's like, okay, my mind right, my mental clarity right. Okay, I'm sober again, and I'm sticking, and motivated in that area. But I'm not doing death matches again. Also, to your point earlier, like once you've done everything, I don't see the point in kind of continuing to do that. And plus, like the blood on the bed sheets, there's no getting around that. That's going to happen. And I started to get to the point where I hated waking up like that. You know, very quick sidebar again. After I wrestled Atticus Kogar in October, again we had a great match and everything, but I got cut pretty bad, like on my elbow. It's nobody's fault. It just that shit happens. Like there's nothing that you can do there. But and like I don't know, I rung my bell or something, and the next day at the airport in Philly, I started having almost like a violent like seizure like thing. Like my body seized up, and then like I just couldn't get out of it, and I like fell to the ground, and then blood started pouring out of me all over the food court floor at the Philly airport. Like they called the police over and the medics over to me. I never told you about this. Like I just
No, it's freaky.
yeah, I couldn't. I mean, blood was coming out of me, everything. It like the medics saw me and they wrapped me up, bandaged me up, and it was just like that was one of the points where I was like, God, how much more, like why do I need to do this? So, like how much I've gotten out of it, like hadn't had serious injuries, and like again done all there is to do. It's like, man, why? Yeah, man, like yeah, this is the right decision to not do this part anymore. And so that's stuff that fans don't see as well, And so anyway, so backtrack to your question, back on track here. It's like, man, what? Like, I'm gonna wrestle for SBN. I'm gonna do regular wrestling and stuff as Drake Younger, but I'm not gonna be like taking like full-time bookings like that. But I also like I love wrestling. I want to be a part of it forever. Like I don't know. I was just like scrambling in my brain, what's next for me, right? And I took a few months off and everything, worked on myself. Personally and everything, focused on my recovery and stuff. And then I'd gotten a new phone number, right? And I was in Japan with Violent J before. We really clicked and everything. And then he was at a match that I had in Detroit September last year with Tommy Vendetta, which was also, by the way, I'm going to take a second to pat myself on the back here, all right? That match, as well as 3 other matches that I had in 2024, was nominated for Deathmatch of the Year. So 4 out of 7 matches that were in that category, I was in them. So I got nominated 4 times for Match of the Year, like in my last year doing death matches. So like that's something that I'm really proud of. And I worked with great talent, but like yeah. So that was really, so Violent J was at that match and everything, and he's like, hey, I want to do something with you. Let's, let me get your number. So I had just messaged him to give him my updated number and said, hey, if there's still any opportunity with JCW, I'd love to chat with you about it. And he sent me this idea, and he was like, hey, look, I know guys that have a name on the independents. Sometimes they might have a hard time, like, coming in with a new character. And I was like, oh, that's not me. Like, I would love the challenge, and, I'm game, Joe. Whatever you want to do, let's, I'm confident that I can make it work. And so he said he's had this idea for years about this 50s character, this guy that's stuck in the 50s, and he uses 50s lingo and 50s language, and he when he's on camera, everything's black and white. His matches are black and white. He constantly nonstop smokes cigarettes. He wears the pinstripe suit. He has the 50 shoes. He's not a gangster, so to speak, but he dabbles in that world a little bit. And he's not like a goody two shoes, sit down with the family every night at 6 p.m. type 50s guy, but he dabbles in that world a little bit too. You know what I mean? He's Mr. 50s. And so, paraphrasing, but he texted me that, and I was like, oh shit. Okay, what do I do? So I was like, immediately, yeah, I'm going to do it. And so the only thing I thought of to do, Jazz, I was like, okay, I'm gonna record a promo for him, and so I recorded like a 90-second pilot promo for this character. I just had made up a character name at that point, but you know, I'd sent it, I recorded it, and then when I hit send, I was like, shit, it's another thing like WWE. You know, I was like, all right, this could be a moment. You know what I mean? Like, because JCW is huge. It's huge.
Yeah,
It's, you
it
know, it's
really is.
torn all over the country. Like you said, amazing production, fantastic people to work for, fantastic people to work with. You know, and just a live, awesome audience, live pay-per-views on Thriller, like everything like that. So I was like, man, this could be huge, or this could just, you know, fall flat if he doesn't like it. I was like, all right, here we go, and I hit send, and in the characters like, yeah, see, I'm gonna go to the port. I gotta check in on my take. I gotta grab my Tommy gun. Yeah, these dames, dally, scallywags. Yeah, see, you know, be just like shit like that. And so, and so I'd taken some acting classes too in WWE, so I'm familiar with, you know, method acting and really getting into the character. And so I sent that to him, and I kid you not, Jazz, he sent it back. He said, "Holy shit, that's perfect. That's perfect." I was like, "Yeah, motherfucker, yeah." I was like, "Hell yeah!" So like I was so excited, and he sent me the dates. You know, and like, you know, we do gray body paint for me, so that way the live audience sees that I'm black and white. It's like, I immediately fell in love with it. You know, Miles Clark was the name I settled on. Mr. 50s Miles Clark. It sounds like a 50s name. I'm also just personally kind of infatuated with that era of American society as well. You know, I just it's a special magical era of our country. And so yeah, I just fell absolutely in love with it. It's also a new challenge for me, being somewhat of a heel. You know, not being Drake Younger, not acknowledging Drake Younger even exists. You know, like, and everything. And it's even hard for me to just talk about that character like now as Drake, because like I'm just so like when I'm Miles Clark, I am freaking Miles Clark. Like, you know what I mean? Like nothing else exists or matters. And like when I'm Drake Younger, it's even weird just acknowledging Miles Clark. You know what I mean? So I don't know if the episodes that we've already filmed from JCW are going to have aired by the time this comes out. But I will say for whoever watches this, once those air, um, please go out of your way to watch it, because I think you'll be thoroughly satisfied. And it's, you know, it's also an opportunity for me, Jazz, to like not destroy my body anymore, because the character is more so on the presentation of the character, the verbiage, you know, the pre-tapes and stuff like that. I know what I'm doing in the ring. Getting in the ring at this point is second nature for me. It's like riding a bike. It's where I'm most comfortable. It's where I'm most at peace. It's where I'm most calm. It's inside the ropes of a pro wrestling ring. So like that's no thing for me, but like, you know, focusing on character heavy presentation, it's really cool and it's gratifying for me.
Yeah, it's a very different environment. I remember everyone was happy. So my second day there, I'm like, wait a second, something's in the water. Plus, everyone has a freaking Android phone. Is this some kind of a cult? But I love the fans. I love the juggalos and juggalettes. They are like the coolest kids in town. I think my scariest moment was when I got grabbed by a bunch of girls by the ring. But that's fine, right? As long as it wasn't a bunch of creepy guys with weapons or anything like that. But I think the character personally suits you. It's very Americana, and it definitely was the golden age of America back then, where you had like men dressed up in really nice suits, women had gorgeous dresses on, they had amazing recipes in that era as well. Plus you with that wife beater top on, it was classic, I have to say. And your outfit reminded me of Jeff King, because he's got that kind of old school singlet style as well, sort of.
Yeah, absolutely. I loved it. I love, you know, wearing the suspenders, you know, the top hat. You know, smoking Lucky Strikes, like that's the tough part, just because I'm not a cigarette smoker. But again, method acting, I'll do whatever for the character. You know, I do have to say, the St. Clair Monster Factory, holy shit,
Corporation.
you totally freaking stepped up to the plate, cracked that one out of the park, girl.
Thank you. I'm excited. It's just weird the first night working with guys because they don't know what to expect from you. Is she going to be a pain in the ass? Is she going to be game? And I told them I'll take bumps. I don't give a shit if I have to get bumped at some point. I don't care. And then obviously they started giving me things to do because they saw I was there to work and actually put the gimmick over, which I feel a lot of women today that become managers, they fail in that aspect because you're there to get the wrestlers over and their gimmick. So I think JCW is a very healthy place to work. And I love working with Ricky Morton. So I think that's a lot of fun with Ricky and Carrie. But you've had quite the journey. What's it been, like 19 years now? 20 years?
23. 20,
23 years. I'm 3 years ahead of you on this.
Nine,
Huh?
19 quality years, but yeah, 23 years in total. Yes, absolutely. And also, to your point, I'd be remiss if I didn't say the art of being a ballet manager is a lost art now as well. And so I really think you're taking the ball and running with it in that aspect.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Hopefully they bring back managers. I love it. And it's weird how we both met Jay like 1 month apart at shows in Michigan. I was working for Horror Slam when I met him. And it was a whole thing. It's like, what could we do? What could we do? Because I'm not a commentator at all. I could do interviews or I could be ringside. That's it. But yeah, it's an amazing journey. And I'm glad you're working there. So what do you have coming up in the next month? Because this will come out right before WrestleMania.
Yes. So the big JCW Super Show in Las Vegas on Saturday night, April the 19th. The next weekend, starting on Thursday, we're doing an awesome JCW tour of lunacy tapings and culminating with the live pay-per-view on Thriller that Sunday. So we're going to be in Rockford, Illinois, Joliet, Illinois, Columbus, Ohio, wrapping it up in Cleveland, Ohio as well. To be announced is a big giant super tour in May as well. And also for anybody, June 20th, Ruthless Pro Wrestling is making their debut in Tampa, Florida, in the Tampa area. So Drake Younger will be on that event as well. It's going to be weird not getting on an airplane to wrestle that day. So, but yeah, and just, for me coming up just in a sense as a whole, I want to give back to the business that's, even when I've had a rough time with the business, I've always loved it. It's given me so much. It's taken me around the world. It's allowed me to provide for my family. It's, you know, I've learned so much about life and had so many amazing experiences and met so many wonderful quality people. Giving back to the business by helping the next generation, by helping anybody I'm in the ring with, by showing them the knowledge that I've been blessed and fortunate to acquire, and I just want to be, continue and to do my best to just be a good quality person, be somebody that like people get excited when I'm in the locker room, and lead by example, clean up the locker room, try to be the first one at the bus, all that kind of stuff, that just it's not a measurable metric, so to speak, but it's just it's attractive, for people to work with somebody that goes to those lengths. So, I just want to be a kind person, perform well, stay in shape, and someday retire and sit with a rocking chair on the beach with a big tall glass of Arnold Palmer, watching my grandkids play in the sand.
Well, that's a great goal.
Yeah.
Is there a yacht involved in this or not?
If you're with me, there's a yacht.
Oh yeah, there's a yacht then for sure.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
perfect.
no, for sure, absolutely. If you're in the picture, there's a yacht.
Oh hell yes. Yeah, I like this picture already. It's perfect. So I know that you're not much on social media, but if people do want to find out where you could be, should they just go to the JCW website, SVN?
JCW, SVN, and Ruthless Pro Wrestling, and you can also contact Jasmin St. She'll know where I'm at as well.
I'll be your parole officer.
Yes, I'll call and check
I'm
in
gonna put an
weekly.
ankle monitor. I'm gonna put a tracker on you. See, if you and I were to ever date, I will put a freaking monitor on your phone. I would actually put a bug
Yeah,
in your clothes or in your bag.
full access, all yours.
See, he likes it. I had a feeling you're into S&M somehow and torture. Um,
No, but seriously, thank you so much for having me on here. I can't believe an hour's gone by. It's like it's great to just talk wrestling and just talk life with you. And I'm so excited for you, what you've done in the podcast space. Proud of you for you just taking initiative in that space as well. You know, you're motivating to just what you know what can be done when you take things outside of the ring and take you know the fame that you've built or the notoriety that you built and just disperse it amongst other areas of entertainment and media. And you've just done an excellent job at that. So thank you for having me on.
well, thank you for being here. Have a blessed Sunday and sit tight.